Hold on. I forgot. Hold on. This game don't got no music, so I was gonna add some music. I guess application capture. I don't know what. There, that. Okay, let's see if that works. Hey. I can't play copyrighted music, so we get chill vibes, random playlist. Anyways, minesweeper. That's what I got. So, play minesweeper. I guess it's on easy mode right now, which is strange because I did not change my settings, but it reset. So, well, it reset my board. My customization stayed the same, I guess. That was weird. Okay. This already sucks. Okay, so I know that one's one. That one's one. That one can't. Neither can that. That one's got two, so it has to be that one. The problem is like I have to think a lot while playing Minesweeper. I was thinking about this the other day because I played. Man, this sucks. Okay. Because I was playing Sudoku for some reason, and I've never played Sudoku before. Like I knew the basic rules, but like I haven't. Who plays Sudoku? You know? So I was like, I don't know, whatever. This line freaking sucks. So I know that that's one. If this one's touching two, then that also has to be one. If this one's touching two, it can't be that one. This one's touching two, it has to be that one. This one's touching two, it has to be that one. This one's touching two, that's safe. This one's touching one, can't be that. Yay! Well, there should be some sound effects, no? Oh, I gotta be careful, actually. Because... Hold on a second. Because this shows my real name if I go into settings. So let me... hold on. Okay. Should have sounds now. Oh wow, that's loud. Was that as loud for you? Could you guys hear that? I gotta see if that's as crazy loud for you guys or not. Oh, what the? Oh, okay. It's not crazy loud, or could you not hear it? Because that actually probably gave me deafness. Yeah, that's kind of what I was afraid of. I could add another audio output capture, I guess. And then just make that. Okay, I added a new audio. There's not like a ton of sound in this game, so I don't know how much it's gonna matter. Wait. Yeah, okay. I was just checking. That one's touching two. That one's touching one. That one's touching one. That's touching three, so those all have to be clear. That one's touching three, so we're good there. Apparently it only makes sound every once in a while, which I don't understand that, but whatever. Can clear this. That one's touching one, it's gotta be that. That one's touching one, so that one's clear. It's touching three, so it has to be those ones. It's two. Is it? I mean, it has to be, because that one's touching three. If this one's touching one. It can't be that one. If that's touching one, then it has to be that one. This one's touching one. This one's touching two. This one's touching one. It's always at the end of these that it gets you one. This one's touching three. This one's touching three. This one's touching two. I don't know. I get the vibe it's that one. That's what I get for going off vibe instead of thinking it through. How loud was that? Too loud? Looks like it was kind of loud. Alright, let's start it again. That's so loud for me, man. I don't understand. Okay. The problem is since I'm trying to talk a little bit more. Okay. Since I'm trying to talk a little bit more, I have to think a little bit less, which not great in Minesweeper, but we're living. That one's obviously one. Two, that's fine. This one's touching two. Could be any of those. That's touching one. That one has to be clear. Trying to see. Clear it as much as possible. Oh, that's all the easy ones, I think. Forgot. I want that up. There we go. Okay. So this is touching two. Well, this one's only touching one. Okay. That's good to know, because that clears out that. This one's touching two, it has to be that one. If that one's touching one, that's clear. If this one's touching one, that's clear. This one's touching two, it has to be that, and that's three. Because it can't be that. This one's touching three, it has to be that. Which means that's clear. If this one's touching two, that's clear. I can see why I had the sounds muted originally, but not great for playing. Wow, look at my amazing times going on here. Man, I must have been going crazy that day. 27 seconds to clear a board. Easy board, of course. Could be playing harder difficulty, I guess. That one's touching one, it can't be that. And then that one's touching two, it has to be that. If that's touching two, it has to be that. That's three, clear that. This one's touching one, that one's touching one, that one's still touching one. This one's touching two, this one's touching one, this one's touching two, which means that's all clear. This one's touching two. This is touching one. Touching one, touching one, touching two, touching one, touching three. See, this is the problem though, right? If I'm focusing on solitaire, then I'm just talking about solitaire. I'm talking about how to get my points in solitaire, which cannot be interesting. There's no way. Am I going crazy here? Am I over marking? Okay, hold on. This one's touching one. Could only possibly be that one. This one's touching two. Could only possibly be those two. This one's touching 3. It could only possibly be those 3. It's touching 2. Could only possibly be those 2. Okay. I'm not overmarking, but that's crazy. Because that, like, doesn't help me in the slightest, actually. This one's touching 3, and I know these 2 have to be 2 that it's touching. Which means, in the end, it could be any of these. This one's also touching 1, though. Which means it's more likely to be those 2. If this one's also touching 1. And this one's touching 1. So this is... Okay. So this one's touching 2. And that's obviously 1. And then that means it's any of these 3. And if this one's touching 1, it could be either of those 2 or this one. But this one's more likely safe than not. Okay. That did not help me. That sucks. I wish that would have cleared a little bit more. The fact that this is only touching 1 means that both of these can't be here, which means one of these is safe. But if I'm assuming one of these is it, then that means this one's safe. And these. Oh, man. What is it doing to me right now, bro? What the heck? Okay. Oh, gosh. That scared me because it was so loud. That's helpful. I think. This one's touching 2. Which means it's got to be in this space. If this one's touching 1, then it's got to be one of these 2. Which I think means this one's safe. Yeah, okay. And if this one's touching 2... No, because it could be this one still, right? Yeah. But this one's touching 1. Which means it has to be one of those 2 that it's touching. And this one's touching 1. This one's touching 1. No, it could still be either of those. That is not as helpful as I was hoping. This one's touching 1. It has to be one of these 2. Okay, and this one's touching 2. Which means it has to be one of these 4. Which overlap. This one's touching 2, which means it has to be one of these 3. Which we know this is 1. And this is touching 2, which means it has to be one of these 2. I think that means this one's... Okay, I guess not. I was fairly confident, but I guess not. Yeah, okay. I was right about this one not going to end up being 1. Man, that sucks. Okay. New game. Can only keep going. is 2. So 1, that one's still 1. That one's 2, could only possibly be that one. That's the 3. That one's also touching 3, but we can't pull anything from that. That one's touching 1, so we know it's not that. Okay, this one's touching 1, we know it's not that one. This one's touching 1, we know it's not that one. This one's touching 1, we know it can't be any of those. This one's touching 1, so it has to be that one. This is always where it gets to be a problem. This is a crappy place to be. So if this one's touching 3, and I know that these 2 have to be the ones it's touching, then we know it's got to be one of those, but one of those is also safe. This one's also touching 3. This is touching 2. We know that's 1. Which leaves us with these 3. But if this one's also touching 2, and 3 would also include that. Why did I exclude this one? I'm losing my mind already. I didn't count that, did I? I counted this one. That's how I decided that those 2 have to be the ones. And so if this one's 1, then we know it has to be that one, possibly. There's so much overlap here, though, that I'm betting it's probably this one. If I know that's clear, that's probably clear. Maybe I'm playing too risky here. But if that's clear, then that's confirmed. And if those are confirmed, then that's confirmed. This one's touching 1 means that's clear. Yes! That one's touching 3, we know that's confirmed. This one's touching 2, means that that has to be clear. This touching 2 has to be that one. That one's touching 1, so that's clear. That's touching 2, so we know that has to be bad. This one's touching 2, so that's fine. This one's touching 2, we know that's clear. Let's go! I've been getting these horrible boards, man. My percentage! No! I'm out of practice. It's been a while since I've played. It's gonna be clear. That sucks. This one's only touching 1, so we know that's clear. This one's touching 1, so it has to be that one. This one's touching 1, so that's clear. This one's touching 1, so that's clear. Awesome. This one's touching 2, so it has to be that one. That one's touching the same 2, so we know that's good. This one's touching 2, which is those 2 are clear. So it's touching 2, so we know that has to be 1. It's touching 1, we know that's clear. This one's touching 1, we know those are clear. That has to be clear. That has to be bad. That has to be clear. That one has to be bad. That one's clear. These are clear. This one's touching 1. We know it's that one, so that's bad, and that has to be bad. Which just leaves my little chunk here. This one's touching 2. Okay, well, this one's touching 2. It has to be that one. This one's touching 2. That can't be it, which means that's it. I stopped looking at my mines and should have realized I had already figured them all out at that point. My percentage went back up. Let's go. Okay, we know that one, that one, that one, that one. You know what's funny? I remember as a kid, I did not understand the rules of solitaire. Or solitaire as a minesweeper. And I have no idea when I picked them up. But at some point, I understood the rules of minesweeper. Okay. Yeah, that one's touching only one. This one's also touching only one. This one's touching 3, so it has to be that one. That one's touching the same 3. That's touching 1. That has to be clear. That's touching 2, means that's clear. I literally have zero idea where I picked this up. I just, all of a sudden, I knew how to play minesweeper. Let's see. Try thinking about this. This one's touching 2. We know that's 1. Oh, wait. Actually, we have this 2. This one's touching 1, so we know it can't be either of those. That one's touching 1, so we know it can't be that one. This one's touching 2. We know it has to be that one. That one's clear. This one's touching 1. That's clear. It's touching 1. We know that's clear. This one's touching 2. It has to be that one. This one's touching 3. We know it has to be that one. This one's touching 2. We know it's that. And this one's touching 3. We know it's that. The thing is like, who plays Minesweeper anymore? It doesn't come for free with Windows anymore. And we have like so many easily accessible free online games that I just don't even know who's like, yeah, Minesweeper. Because like I remember as a kid on the old PC playing Minesweeper and just bombing every time because I had no idea how to play. This one's touching 1. We know that's clear. This one's touching 1. We also know that's clear. If this one's touching 2, it has to be that one. That clears that. It's touching 1. We know that's all clear. I actually don't remember. It's just like randomly one day I was like, man, Minesweeper, how did that work? And then I reinstalled it. And I just like kind of understood how to play. I guess because it's not like actually that difficult of a game. It's really kind of a simple puzzle game more than anything. That's already touching 3. This one's touching 3. Yeah. There's only some stuff that still gets me. Like, once I end up in situations like this. But considering I'm just, like, figuring it out on my own, I think I'm doing all right. Okay. So this one's touching 3. I know it's those 2, and it could possibly be these 2. This one's touching 2. The only options are that one, or this one. Which I feel like more than likely it's going to be this one. And if we go off that assumption, well, now it has to be that one because I cleared that. So yeah, it has to be that one. If that's true, then that's clear. If that's true, that's clear. And this one's touching 2, so it could be either of these. If this one's touching 2, then it has to be that one, so that's clear. That's touching 1, that's clear. That's touching 3, we know that's clear. I don't know, I think sometimes it's just because I'm trying to think too quickly and I'm not stopping to think about how these connections actually interact with each other. Sometimes I do good. And sometimes I do not. Okay, so that's touching 1. That one has to be that one. That was only touching 1. This one's touching 2, so that has to be clear. This one's touching 2, so it has to be that one. 1, so that's also clear. Ooh, a 4. I'm touching 1, so we know that's clear. Okay, we'll start working on this side of the board for now. We know that's good, that's good, that's good. If this one's touching 1 and it's that one, then these all are clear. It's touching 2, it has to be that one. That one's touching 1. This one's also touching 1. This one's touching 2, so we know it's that. This is touching 3, so that's clear. Yeah. Hold on. turning down the volume of my headset. It shouldn't affect stream, but stuff is just so loud. Okay, let's see. Those are all good. And if that's good, then these are good. And if that's good, that's touching 1, so those are all good. That's still touching 1, those are all good. It's touching 2, we've cleared that. That one's good. It's touching 3, it has to be those 3. That's touching 2, we know it's those 2. It's touching 1, that's clear. That's touching 1, there we go. Cleared that. Oh, this one's touching 1, so it has to be that one. This one's touching 2, it has to be that one. It's touching 3. Okay, let's think about this from over here again. This one's touching 1, so we know those are clear. And if that, and then that, and if that, then that. Oh, I went too fast, I think. I should have thought that that was a 3. For some reason, I didn't stop to think. Because that would have let me know that I was doing something stupid. Okay. You know, that and that. This kind of sucks. This one's touching 1, this one's touching 2. It could be either of those 2. Has to be that one. And if that's true, then that's clear. And if that's true, that's clear, and that's clear. Touching 1 means those are clear. This leaves me in a bad spot over here. If this is only touching 1, that's clear. This is only touching the 1 that we know all these are clear. That's touching 2, we know it has to be that, which means that's clear. Touching 1, that's clear. That has to be the bomb. This one's touching 2, we know it has to be that. That kind of sucks. Okay, let's start from here. This one's only touching 1, so we know that's clear. This is also touching 1, we know it's that. This is clear, we know it can't be those. This one's only touching 1, which means it can't be that. It's touching 3, which means it has to be those. So that's touching 1, that's clear. That's touching 2, that's clear. And this is touching 1, so I think, yeah, it has to be this one, right? Because that's touching 1, yeah. Oh, minesweeper. If only I could ever figure out chess this well. Okay. I still make mistakes here, obviously, so I wouldn't even be that good at chess. Let's see. So we know that's touching 1, that's clear. We know that's touching 2. Has to be those 2. Those 2 match. That sucks. This is not a good start. Has to be those 2, and if those 2, then these ones are not. If that's touching 1, then this all has to be clear. This is touching 2, which means that has to be clear. This is touching 2, which means that has to be clear. This is touching 1. These all are clear. Those are clear. This one's touching 1, so that's not clear. This is touching 1, that's not clear. This is touching 3, that, I mean, I guess I could have done it for that. But if that, then that, and that, and that. So it's touching 2, we know it's those 2, so those have to be clear. We know that's no good. Those are clear. That's all clear. I get too focused on the field, I forget to actually look at all the information they give me. Because I should be able to see that there's less mines than I think are left. Oh, that sucked. What a crappy... Okay. Honestly, at ones like this, I feel like it's just faster to just like click somewhere else and hope you don't hit a bomb. Except for when it does that and it doesn't help. What is... Okay. That's like really lucky that I did it twice, but also that sucks because are you kidding me? Okay. Maybe I'll just attempt to play this the long way, I guess. Sucks. Okay. Touching 1. It could possibly be any of these. This one's touching 1. It shares possibility with those ones, but it includes this one. It's touching 2. It could be either of those or this one. See, because that doesn't help. That's the problem. Because, like, oh, any of these could be a bomb. Wow, thanks. Any of the border could be a bomb. It does not help. Maybe I'll just keep going crazy. That one's touching 1. Which means more likely than not, if I click around it, I'm not going to click a bomb. Thank goodness. Okay. That actually gives you something to work with. Okay, so that, we know that's good. This one's touching 2. We know it has to be that one. That one's safe. This one's touching 2. It has to be that one, which means that's clear. One's touching 1. This one's touching 1. Those 2 are safe. This one's touching 2. We know it's those 2. This one's touching 2. Also has to be those 2. This one's touching 1. It has to be that one. If this one's touching 1, it could not be that one. This one's touching 2. We know it has to be those 2. That one's touching 2. We know it can't be that one. Touching 3. It has to be that one. Can't be that one. Can't be either of these. This one's touching 1, so it can't be that one. This one's touching 1, which means it can't be those 2. This one's touching 2, so it has to be that one. Touching 3, so it has to be that one. This one's touching 2, so it has to be that one. Yay! Board was not a good start. Okay. If we go, that one's touching 1. Those are all clear. That one's touching 2. Has to be that one. We know those are touching 2, so that's safe. That's safe. This one's touching 1. That's safe. This one's touching 2, and it's those 2. This one's touching 1. It has to be that one. That's clear. That's touching 1. Yay. Okay, those are 2. This one's touching 1, so it can't be that one. This one's touching 2. It has to be that one. This one's touching 1. Can't be that one. Touching 1. Can't be that one. This one's touching 1, so it has to be that one. This one's touching 2. We know it's those 2. Let's go! Okay. I actually do know it's that. Because both of those ones give it away. What? What am I forgetting? Oh, because that one's also touching 3, yeah. I was not... Yeah, that was... Okay. Whoops. Again, I wasn't thinking. Got too arrogant. Let's see, this one's touching 1. No, it's not that one. That one's touching 1. Has to be that one. I mean, I could have figured that out from that too, but... This sucks again. Okay. This is touching 2, which means it's either of those. This is touching 1, which means it's either of those. This is touching 3, which means it's any of these. And this one's touching 2, which means it's any of these. If I had to bet, this one's safe. Or not. Yeah. Trying to think if there's any way to actually figure that out properly. Because, like, when I have just a block here of undiscovered... Why didn't I click that one? That was weird. Okay, so if I know this one has 2, and I know that one's confirmed, then it has to be either of those. But see, there's like nothing to give me more info there. 3. It ends up being those 3. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's any way to like actually glean info from that. That's my problem. Those are all clear. Can't be that one. There's too many options here for all of these. I'm sure there's probably like people who have like broken this down to like extreme levels where it's like, oh yeah, you could always determine if something is good or bad based on like this other info. But I don't know what that info is. Oh, another 4. Don't get too many of those, surprisingly. Ugh. That has to be clear. That has to be bad. It's 3 of the 4, but there's only one option left, so it has to be that one. See, because on ones like this, there is always a way to figure it out, but sometimes it just really feels like there isn't. That one's touching 4. There's only 4 spaces left for it to touch. Oh, what a mess. Okay. Oh, that's 1, 2. What's funny about this game is that you have to go based on the fact that your assumptions are correct. Because like if I got any of these wrong, then it would get me off, right? Like my whole clicking would be in a bad space if I ever marked a false bomb, which I haven't done. It's just when I get into the weird situation. Well, I haven't done this stream. Obviously, when I was figuring it out, it probably was like a year ago now. I had that problem. Every once in a while where I would be more confident in selecting things that ended up being wrong. Well, that gives me that answer. That's good. Ugh. Oh, that was a misclick, but it was fine. This one's touching 1. That has to be safe. This one's touching 1. That's dangerous. Touching 1 means that that's dangerous. This one touching 2 means that the rest of these are safe. This one touching 2 means that's dangerous. Touching 1 means that this is clear. This one touching 1 means it has to be that one. I don't think I'll ever get above 75% accuracy. Seems I only ever falter after I get to that. Touching 1, we know those are all clear. Okay, that went well. Oh, that's it. And that's why it's always good to look back down at your bombs every once in a while. Because otherwise you're sitting there trying to figure out if there's more diffusing you have to do. Okay. Those are all clear. If this is still touching 1, then it has to be that one. And if this is touching 2, then we know it's those 2. And if this is touching 2, and we know those 2 are it, then that's that. See, this whole bottom row is a problem now. Because, let's say this one's touching 2, and we know it has to be an intermediate, and we know that this one's 1. So we're really looking for 1. But the 1 could be either of these 2. If this one's touching 2, and we know that this is 1, then it could be either of these 3. And we get less help because this one's touching 2. And if it's touching 2, we know that this is 1. Then it could be any of these 3 again, including an extra one. So this entire bottom row is questions. I have no way of guaranteeing the safety of any of these as far as I know. Instead of blowing that up, we're going to start working up here, I guess. So if we know that this one's safe, those are safe. And if that's safe, then that's safe. And if this is touching 1, then we know it's that one. And if this is only touching 1, then those are all safe. And if this is touching 3, then it has to be that one. It's touching 2, we know that's touching 1, so that's clear. This one's also touching 1, okay. That helps. So if that one's touching 3, we know it has to be that one. We know it can't be that one. This one's touching 2, so we know it can't be that one. And if this is touching 2, then it can't be that one either, which means it is that one. And see, that worked out because it gave me this whole area over here, but like, it ain't always doing that for you. I think that's clear then, right? The whole area, yeah. 3 nice bombs in a straight line, okay. Sorry, I'm starting to like, starting to just like whisper to myself, getting too focused. If we know that's one, and it has to be that one, then that's fine. This one's also touching that same one, so it can't be those. Okay, see, this is a problem. So this one's touching 3. And we know 2 of them are these ones confirmed. And that could be either of these ones. This one's also touching 3. And we know for sure it's these 2, and then either of these ones. This one's touching 1. So it could be either of these 2 spaces. This one's also touching 1. Which means it could be either of these 2 spaces. So, and when I get in a case like this, how do I determine which one's actually safe? Because it can be either, right? Am I crazy? Am I missing something here? This one's touching 1, and we know it's that one. This one's touching 3. We know it's those 2 and possibly these 2. Trying to see if any of these other ones clear this area. But they don't, because they don't come all the way over here. None of their squares overlap. Because they're too close together. So how do I know? Do I just 50-50 it? Am I stuck at the 50-50? Because as far as I can tell, there's no way to confirm one of these from the other. Because the ones don't clear either of them. Because it could be either for the ones. These are too high for either of them to count for the other 3s. Which means it still could be either of those. And none of the other numbers are close enough to have an effect on it. Which I guess means I just 50-50. Brother. That's what I get, I guess. Sometimes I'm worried I'll go so fast that I'll accidentally click a bomb. Doesn't usually seem to be a problem though. So it's switching 2, so it has to be that one. So that's clear. Yeah, I just don't know. Again, similar situation here. So this one's touching 2. We know it's those 2. This one's touching 2. We know it's those 2. This one's touching 3. We know it's those 3. This one's touching 1. It could be either of these 2. This one's touching 3. And so we know it's these 2 and either of these. Not or. And either of these. So again, how do you determine which one is which? This is just as crappy as the situation down here, actually. Because I have no info on this bottom line. So see, this one we know is 2, which means it's touching 2 bombs. We know it's obviously touching this bomb. There's still 2 bombs, and I know definitely for sure one's up there. So there's one more bomb down here. And so we know if this one's touching 2, then it has to be one of these 3 spaces. And if this is touching 1, then we know it actually has to be one of these 2 spaces, which clears this one. But now I'm just left with 2 50-50s. Am I wrong? Like, I don't... What a way to lose this match. Having to win the 50-50 twice. No. Because if this one's only touching 2, then it can't be this one. Which means that has to be the bomb. Okay. Got that, right? So I only have to win the 50-50 once. Am I missing something here, though, that would solve this for me? This one's touching 2. Correct. This one's touching 1. Correct. This one's touching 3. 2 of the 3. This one's touching 2. That's correct. This one's touching 3. See, none of these are close enough to fix this for me. Do I just assume that they're clustered together more likely than not? Of course not this time, right? How am I getting the 50-50 wrong every time? Explain that to me. Seems statistically unlikely that I'd get the 50-50 wrong that many times in a row. Man. Alright, 2 bombs in this mess still. Okay, this one's touching 1, so we know that has to be clear, which means that has to be the bomb. So those are clear. And if this is touching 1, then it has to be that one. The funniest thing is that this game cheats for you. So your first click will never be a bomb, right? But even so, like, doesn't help a ton. So those have to be clear. Means that has to be the 3rd bomb. Either of these is a bomb. If we look at this one, then we know that it's either the or those. This one, we know could be either of those or there. Based on the overlap, though, this one's 3. We know we caught 2 there. I'm thinking this is the bomb. Yeah, okay. And if that's the bomb, then those are clear. This is only touching one bomb, so we know both of those have to be clear. Touching the 2. This one's only touching 1. This one's touching 1. Ugh. I will never beat that 75%. Pull up some decent shapes here. Okay, we know that one. This one's touching 2, so we know it has to be that one. Those all have to be clear. This one's touching 2, so we know it's that one. That's clear. This one's touching 2, so we know it has to be that one. This isn't really helping. This one's touching 3, which means it can be any of these. This one's touching 3, which means it can be any of these. And I have 2 bombs hidden in a 6x6 grid, or 2x3 grid. 6 total. So I have a 1/3 chance of just blowing myself up. Now, what's more likely here? That this 3 has 2 close and 1 far? Or 3 close? And that this one is grouped into the same 3 right there. Is it possible that these are both completely separate groups? So this one's safe, and this is the other one, and that this is the other one? See, I took a big risk there by just randomly clicking that one, which I was pretty sure wasn't, but it didn't actually help me. Because it didn't clear this. But all of these are going to be close, so I guess I should have figured that. I don't know, I feel like not this one. That is scary, okay. Still doesn't really help me though. I'm thinking this is safe. I think this has to be one. Because that's not one. Oh gosh. That still took me a risk though. Was there a better way than to just risk that those 2 were safe? I mean, there was a lot of reason behind it. I didn't just do it willy-nilly, obviously, but I didn't feel good about it either. I like to feel confident in the decisions I'm making. Not like I'm about to possibly make the worst decision of my life every single time I try to make a decision in this game. This game does not want me to feel that way, though, clearly. How are those all 3 touching 3? This is some sick joke. okay, if this one's touching 3, it has to be those 2 because it has to be touching there. If this is touching the same 3, obviously it covers the same group, so that's safe. This one's touching 3 and actually is covered in the same space, so that's also safe. Oh, I guess I should have looked again. I had all my bombs solved already. Those 2 are both clearly bombs. Those are all safe. That's all safe. That's all safe. Those are safe. That's a bomb. That's a bomb. That's safe. Those are safe. That's all safe. That's not safe. That's safe. That's safe. Those are not safe. Those cover the same 2. This one's got 2 in it now. This one's also got 2 in it, so we know that's all good. Cool. This one's touching 2. We know it's those 2. This one's only touching 1, so it can't be that one. This one's also only touching 1. This is still touching 1. This is touching 2. This is touching 3. Ah! Minesweeper. Why do I stress myself out by wanting to play this game? I do not know. Well, that has to be clear. That one's touching 2. We know it's those 2. This one's touching 2. It's 1. That's touching 3, so it has to be that one. It's touching 1. This one's also touching 1. It's touching 2. This is touching 2 though, so it has to be that one. That's bad. Oh my gosh. I just feel like because it is like a puzzle game, right? That there shouldn't be anything left to chance, and so I must be missing something when I end up with something that feels like it has to be chance. Like I must be missing critical information. It's touching 2, we know it's those 2. It's touching 1, those are all safe. That's touching 1, those are all safe. Oh, cool. That's why it's nice to work in broad strokes sometimes, because it does kind of help you figure out what you're doing. Sometimes it doesn't feel like you get much help anyways, though. Okay, we know those ones are clearly, and that one has to be one. Has to be that one. That one. This one's touching 2. Could be any of those. Touching 4 has to be that one. But now I've got one more bomb and a 50-50. Okay, let me just double check. This one's touching 1. We know it's that one. This one's touching 2. We know it's those 2. This one's touching 4. We know it's all these 4. It's touching 2. We know it's these 2. This one's touching 2. We know it's these 2. It's touching 1. We know it's that one. This one's touching 3. And we know it's at least these 2 and possibly either of these. This one's touching 1, which means it's either of those. This one's touching 2, which means it's one of these and either of these. This one's touching 1, which means it's that. Yeah, okay. See, again, I'm at a 50-50. And what's more likely? That there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bombs grouped together, or that one is spaced out. And it's at complete random, and I know that. So how do I make a wise decision here? Am I missing something? I lost the 50-50 again. Was that the 4th time in a row I've lost 50-50? That's why I hate the 50-50. There has to be some way. I refuse to accept that I just have to lose matches sometimes. It just doesn't seem correct. This is a tough one. Oh, this actually like sucks. I don't know if I have enough info at all, honestly. I mean, more likely than not, clicking is still safe. Okay, let's see. This one could be either of these two. And 2 expects either of these 3 here. So I feel like this one's probably safe. In which case we know that one's the bomb. Those 2 are safe. If this is touching 2, then we know it has to be that one. If that's touching 2, then we know that's safe. If that's touching 1, we know that's safe. It still leaves me with this whole wall over here, though. Which is a problem. Because there's somehow 4 bombs. In my 18 remaining squares. And no easy way to clear them. Okay. We'll just work through this, I guess. So this one's touching 1. We know it has to be either of these. This one's touching 1. We know it remains either of these plus this one. This one's touching 1. It could still be this one, but any of these as well. So I feel like more likely than not, it's this one. Okay. And that's been confirmed now. Because if this is touching 1 and it can't touch that one, and this is the only block left, it has to be this one. That one's touching none. That one's touching 1. This is touching 2, but this is also only touching 1, so we know that's good. This is touching 1 means that that has to be a bomb, means that's safe, and that's safe. This one's touching 2, we know it's those 2, so those are both safe. This is touching 2, we know that has to be a bomb, and if that's touching 2, then we know that's safe. Oh, we're good. See, I still felt like I was kind of taking a risk. I was just using... I mean, I don't know. Most likely outcome based on overlap, but like that doesn't, there's no guarantee that that's actually correct. I could be wrong in that case still. It's only touching 1, so we know it can't be that one. This one's also only touching 1. That's touching 2, so we know it has to be that one. This one's touching 1, so it can't be that. Touching 1, and we know it's that one. So now we know it's that one. That has to be clear. That's touching 1. Those are both clear. This is touching 1. We know that's clear. Touching 2. We know it has to be that one. This one's also touching 2, so it has to be that one. Touching 3, so it has to be that one. This one's touching 2, and we already know it's those 2. It's touching 1. That's clear. This one's touching 1, we know that's clear. This one's touching 1, we know that's clear. This one's touching 2, we know it has to be that one. That's clear. This one's touching 1, we know it's that one. This one's touching 1, and it can't be anything other than that. The thing is, like, this is not really like a spectator game, I guess. So, like, how do you commentate over thinking through the same problem over and over again. At least this game forces me to like slow down and think through these problems. I feel like a lot of games really do. I mean, like there is a timer, obviously. Oh, can you? Yeah, you can see my mouse. Okay. There's a timer, but like it doesn't really matter, right? It's just to beat yourself. So there's not like really a rush going on here. Both of these expect a 3. But this only expects a 1. Which to me suggests that it probably is this lower one, which means it's probably safe. Okay. I went around assuming too much again, I guess. Section 3, we know it has to be that one. That one's section 2, we know those are clear. Almost just clicked the No, that's not gonna help. We know this is touching 2, so that has to be bad. We know this one's touching 3, and it already is, so that's good. This one's touching 1, so those have to be clear. This one's touching 4, and it's only possible for it to touch those 4. So that's good. This one's touching 2, which already is. This one's touching 2, which already is. This one's touching 1. Touching 2. Oh. It appears that taking a break did not make me better at this game. Okay, that's good. Yeah. These are clustered together. Not that one, so it has to be that one. That was touching 2, so that's good. It's already touching 3. Has to be that one. Okay. If I don't try jumping the gun, I'm usually alright. Sometimes it does feel like it's necessary, though. That doesn't super help. It has to be there. Section 2, it has to be that one. That one's touching 3, we know that's clear. This one's already touching 3. Those are already touching. Oh, I got a 4 off the rip there? I didn't even realize. Oh, has to be clear. I'm switching 3, so I'm going to do that one. That's clear. Switching 4, it's only possible for it to be those 4. And if that's true, then that's true. And if that's true, that's true. 2, it's already touching 2. This one's touching 2. It's not yet touching 2, but now it is. This one's 3. It's only possible for it to touch those 3, which means we're done. Yay. Can I get above 75%? Might be asking too much. Those are all clear. That's touching 1. That's touching 2. Touching 1. That's touching 2. That's touching 3. Okay, that's all we can do there right now. That's all I want to do. I might be able to do more. No, those are all good. That's only touching the 1. That gives me the 2 for that. No, this is also only touching the 1, which means all this is clear. This is touching 1, so we know that's good. Touching 2, so we know it has to be that too. Yeah, okay. I still got too much empty, untracked space going on. Okay. This one's touching 2. We know it's that one, and it can be either of these 2. This one's touching 3. We know it's those 2, either that one or that one. So more likely, hold on. This one's touching 2. We know it's that one, and it can be that. Or these. This one's touching 2. Either that or that. That's probably... What? I felt like that was like the safest one. How is it... I should have thought about it more again, I guess. I guess I should have gone down here. I was thinking these two were about the same level of safe, but I guess not. I must have been missing something up here. Anyways. Pick out all of the ones I know. This one has to be that. It's already touching 2. That's touching 1 already. If that's touching 2, it has to be that one. Oh man, I'm trying to get above 75%, even by just 1%. If I could hit 76, I'd be happy. But I keep making dumb mistakes, I guess. Touching 2, so it has to be that one. Those have to be clear. That's touching 1. That's that. This one's touching 1, so that should be good. 1, that should be good. It's touching 2, it's already touching 2. Not that. Let's try to clear that. That should be good. Those are all good. Oh, which we're good. thing is that I've played so many matches that I don't even know how much it would take for me to hit 76% on my current. Especially because my 75 right now is currently very close. Yeah, that sucks. That's not helpful. One, we know it's that one, so that has to be safe. 2, we know that has to be dangerous. That one's 2, that has to be dangerous. That one's over there, so that's all clear. I think that's also guaranteed, right? Yeah. Touching 1, so we know it's that one. Touching 2, so it has to be that one. We know that's touching 1, so that has to be safe. That one's touching 2 and it already is. This one's touching 1 and it already is. It's 3, so it has to be that one. Oh! It's touching 2. Well, that's safe. You know, it has to be that one that's touching. Sick. Touching 2, and it's those 2, so that has to be safe. That one's also already touching 2. This one is touching 2. This was now only possible to be that one. It has to be that. That has to be dangerous. This one's touching 1, so we know that's clear. Touching 2, so it has to be that one. Yeah. So 75%. That should be better. Not getting these random losses. That's good. That has to be clear. Two, you know that. That one's 2 has to be that one. Interesting. Okay. I could reset my data, I guess, if I really wanted. I feel like it's better to see if I'm actually improving over time, though. See if I can build up my score, which is why I've left it. Okay. Touching 1, those should all be safe. This is touching 1. Has to be that one. This one's touching 1, which means that's safe. This is touching 1, which means that's safe. This one's touching 2, and it's only possible for it to be those 2. This is touching 1, so we know that's safe. This is touching 1, which means that's safe. This is touching 2, which leaves either of these. Touching 2, which it is. This one's touching 4, which means it could be any of these. Here I am again. Somehow, at the end, a 50-50. When I was doing so well. What do you want to bet if I finally got one of these 50-50s right? I get to 60 or to 76%. And that the game is purposefully trying to prevent me from doing that. What information am I missing here? Because this is touching 2, and we know it's those 2. That one's touching 2, it's those 2. This one's touching 2, we know it's these 2. This one's touching 1, it has to be that one. This one's touching 2. But it can be either of these 2. This one's touching 4. And again, it can be either of these two. It's just like there's never enough info. Like, what am I missing? Nah, dude, this has got to be a joke. There's no way that it's not doing it on purpose to prevent me from getting to 76%. I refuse to believe that I'm not being trolled right now. That's my 5th 50-50 that I've lost in a row. What are the statistical odds of losing 5 50-50s in a row? I don't think the numbers on that are very high. Oh, this just sucks, dude. Yeah, see, I was doing too well. Now it's trolling me. I don't even know what I could possibly use to help me figure out stuff here. This one's touching one, it has to be one of these two. This one's touching one, it can be any of these three. That one's probably safe. If that's touching 2, then we know it has to be these 2. Which means that's safe. Touching 1, all of these are safe. Thank goodness. Let's move like that. This one's touching 2, it has to be those 2. It's touching the same 2, that's clear. This one's also touching the same 2. And that's touching 3. Has to be that one. This one's already touching 2, so that's clear. Touching 1. This one's touching 3. See, but I had to take a risk here. I had to make the assumption based on what little information I had that area I clicked would be safe. And it's like, did I get it? Yeah. But was my logic actually sound, or was I just lucky? I feel like I try using that logic some other times and it doesn't work. Is everything there? Yeah, okay. This still leaves me in a pretty bad spot. No, okay. As soon as I actually sat down and looked at it, it wasn't actually that bad. I think those are both guaranteed, right? Yeah. Which means that should be clear. That's clear. That's clear. That's not clear. That has to be bad. 3 means that has to be good. Ugh. I also don't get how my percentage hasn't changed as much as I feel like it should if I'm winning so many more matches than I'm losing. It's not like I'm losing 1 in every 4. This sucks. This one can only be that one. Which clears that. Those are clear. Does have 4 in its radius? Yes. 3 in its radius? Yes. Does have 2 in its radius? No, but it has to be that one with a 3. See, this is what I'm talking. This one's simple because there is other data I can use, but sometimes they really just they don't give you what you need. It has to be that one. That one clears those. There's not enough info there. Now that's enough info. You know, this one. Clears those. If this is only touching one, it can't be that one. It's touching 2 means it has to be this one. It's touching 1, which means it can't be these. Okay. Those are all fine. This is not helpful. Again, it's thrown us at a wall. So this one's touching 3. It can be any of these. In its radius. It's touching 2. It can be either of these in its radius. Let me clear the 3 for now. If this were touching, it would have to be one of those 2 or this one. If this were touching 1, it would have to be this one, that one, or this one. How does that overlap with 3 again? Makes it any of these. 2 makes it any of these. 1 means it has to be one of those 2. Okay. Is this feasible? Because I'm trying to think. Okay. This one is touching 2. We know this one. We know it has to be one of these 2. We know that this is also touching that bomb either way. Because it has to be one of those 2. And it's also possible that whatever bomb this is touching is over here. But because of this 2, we know that one of these has to be a bomb. So this one can't be a bomb. If this is touching a bomb, then it must be either this one or this one. My options with 3 is that it's still one of these 4 though. But since this 2 is here, I mean, yeah, this is a literal minefield. Because there's 3 bombs here of these 4 spaces. 3 of these 4 spaces have to be a mine. And I get it, haha, the whole thing's a minefield, but I'm talking specifically this little area. Because statistically, it's more likely that any of these I click is a mine than isn't a mine. I feel like, realistically, this one's probably not a mine, and these 3 probably are. Which means that's safe. The problem is these don't really help that much. I mean, if I run on the assumption that this one is a mine, which is more likely than not, then the rest of these should be safe. And we also can confirm that that's a mine now because this is touching the same 2. And this one's also touching 2, so we know that's safe. This is still touching those 2, which means that these do have to be clear. Which means I was right about that being the mine, okay? And if this is only touching 1, then we know that this is safe and that this is the other mine over here. And that this whole area is clear. And with those 2 touching, we know those are mines. That one touching, those are safe. I've spent way too long on this stupid puzzle. Those 2, we know that's safe. Those are good. Okay. Now we just have this bottom corner, which we know that makes that a mine, and the rest are good. I don't know, man. Oh, I did it. I hit 76. Let's go. Only took me an hour to move up 1%. Okay, let's just mark here. 2, we know that has to be bad. If this is touching 2, we know those are clear. This is touching 1, we know that's clear. This is touching 2, it already is. Touches 1, so that has to be clear. That has to be a bomb. This one touches 2, but it could be any on this wall pretty much. Touches 1, we know it can't be that one. Then we'll touch 2, we know it has to be that one. We know those are all clear because it's touching the same 2. This is 1, that's 1. That has to be a mine. This one has to be clear. If this is only touching 1, then that has to be clear. I'm being forced to lock in. So touches 2, we know it has to be that 2, which means that's touching 3. That's also touching 3, so that's safe. We know that's touching 1. If this one's touching 2, it's only possible for it to touch these 2. And that shares the same 2. For this one to be touching 2, we know it has to be that one, which means that one's there. If this one's touching 1, we know that's all clear. Touching 3, that's right. That's touching 1. This is touching 1. This is touching 2. This is touching 3. Why did I assume that was 1? I dropped back down. Are you kidding me? After all that work, 1 loss is going to take me back down to 75%. This game. Remember what I said about false flagging? I got too confident in my flags, which I should be able to be confident in, but I don't know why I marked that one. I'd actually have to go back and see how confidently I did that. No, those are clear. That has to be 1. Puts me in a bad spot there. Clear this. Fantastic. That's great there. 1, we know that's clear. That's clear. 2, we know means that's clear. Has to be those 2. Oh, I'm out of bombs, which means if I'm right, I'm right. Okay. Well, I got greedy and lost my 76%, I guess. After nearly 2 hours to get it, I lost it just like that. That one has to be bad. That one has to be good. This one's touching 2. Just keep clearing here. Bruh. Okay. You know, those are good. That's all good. We know this is touching 1 for sure. That's clear. That's clear. We know that's all clear. Okay, that's good. We got a perfect 9 blocks containing 3 more bombs that I gotta figure out here. Okay. Oh, this one is touching 2. We know for sure it is touching this bomb. We also know that it could be touching a bomb in any of these 3 positions. This one is touching 3. Wait, hold on. We have this too, which means that has to be clear. Okay, that's good. This one's touching 3, so we know it has to be those 3. That's good. It's touching 2, which means that we know that these 2 have to be clear. This one's touching 4, which means it's that. And we did it. We solved it. How many wins? I only took 2 wins to get back up to 76. I would just like to build a little bit into 76 instead of just leaving it at 1 loss, robbing it from me again. It appears that I might be maxing out my ability to actually win at 76%. Which is really sad, actually. You're telling me in a strategy puzzle game I can only win 76% of the time? Yeah. Okay. This one has to be touching 3. We know it's touching these 2, and it's possibly either of these. But this one's also touching 2, and my options are literally only these 2. So more likely than not, we're sharing this bomb here. Which means this one should be safe. How do I get this wrong every time? See, I was convinced what was going to happen here was that bottom corner was going to be 1. Okay, hold on. Let me just look at this. This one's touching 2. Because it's touching the far extremes. This one's touching 3 because it's touching the other far extreme. It's just like, it's so impossible to know that though. Like, what information did I have to work off of with these 4 blocks that could have actually let me know that these two were the dangerous ones. Because with just 4 blocks sitting by themselves, the likelihood that I knew I could figure that out is like, I feel like it has to be like almost 0. Okay, love that for me. Oh, we're back to another of the exact same situations. That fast. That's amazing. Okay. So we know this one's touching 2, and we know for sure that this is 1. And so it's possible that the other one are either of these 2. This one's touching 3, and we know it's touching these 2, and it's possible that the other 2 that it could be are these 2, which means we have an overlap of 1 here, which means more likely than not this is 1. But as we saw in the last example, that's not necessarily true, which is just fantastic. For this one to be touching 1, it needs to be in one of these 3 spots. And for this one to be touching 1, it needs to be in these 2 spots. Which to me actually does suggest that this one should be safe. Because otherwise these would have to be more connected than they ended up being. Which, because we know that this one is the bomb now, which means that's safe. Because that's 2, we know that's safe. That's 1, we know those are safe. That's touching that one, so that has to be. It's touching 3. It's only possible for it to be those 3. Has to be that one. That's touching 2 now. For that to be touching 3, it has to be that one. That's touching 1. This is also touching 1, so it has to be that one, because that's touching 1. We know that has to be safe, and that has to be safe. That was weird. Because that's touching 2, we know it's those 2. Because this is touching 3, it could be either of the or any of these 3, or these 2, and we already know it has these 2. And I have 1 bomb left, and I'm at a 50-50. Oh wow! I love that. We're back here. Okay. I guess we'll just have to see if we can logic this out in any way. So, I just feel like I can't, dude. What am I supposed to do here? This is just... Okay, this is touching 2, we know it's these 2. This is touching 1, we know it's this 1. This is touching 1, it can be either of these 2. If the bomb is down here, does that affect any of the other numbers? I don't think so. So how do I know then? Was that the 6th, the 7th 50-50 I've lost? I feel like the game has to actually be trolling me at this point. Like it wants to keep you at 75% win-loss. Because at this point, it's a statistical anomaly that I've lost so many 50-50s in a row. Oh, now I'm looking at this, and this is a mess and a half. Okay, this one's touching 2, which we know means it could be any of these 3, because we already have one here. So we actually have pretty good odds of clicking any of these and being alright. 2/3 that we're safe. This one is also covering 2, but it has a much bigger range here. But I'm willing to bet it's probably sharing the 2 with this, so that's probably safe. And we know now, because that's safe, that that has to be the bomb. And that is in fact safe there. And that's clear, and this is all clear. That's sharing 2, so we know that has to be bad. Can only possibly be those 2. That one's in a group of 3. This one already has 2 in its unit. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Those are all safe. That already has 2. That already has 1. That obviously is a bomb. We now know that's clear. We now know that's a bomb. This one has a bomb in its unit, so we know that has to be bad. That one's calling 2, so we know that has to be bad. That is the only possible way for that to have 2. That's the only possible way for that to have 3. And 2. 4, though. Could be either of these 2 again. Like, I have to be missing something, right? What do I not understand about Minesweeper that would allow me to solve this? Okay, so this is 1. And looking at its grid, we know that it has to be either this one or this one. This is 4. 3 of it is covered, which means that it has to be either this one or this one. And you know, the last 3 that I've clicked to the outer one, assuming it was clustering. And I've been wrong every single time. Now, if I 50-50 again, and I click the inner one, what do you think the odds are that I'm about to lose this again? Because clearly this isn't 50-50ing like it's supposed to. I mean, there has to be a rule, right? Like, am I missing something? I just feel like I have to be missing something. But, like, surprisingly enough, there's not people who tell you how to play Minesweeper, really. You just kind of figure it out. But what am I missing? Because it seems like I'm really out of options. Well, I won the 50-50. I don't feel good about it, though. Can you really feel good if your victory is due completely to luck and 0% of anything you had control over? What? Oh, yeah, I did that wrong. Yeah, okay, that was me being stupid. Because, yeah, obviously that was a bomb. I was going too fast. For some reason, I was trusting my mouse movement, even though that was wrong. We know those are all bad, and this is fine. We know those have to be bad. That already has 2 in its zone. There gotta be more. I gotta lock in here. There's 3 bombs in 4 spots there, huh? Well, we know there's a bomb there. Because there has to be. We know there's a bomb there. Because there has to be. We know that's filled out. Okay. I've gone for about my normal stream time, which is crazy because it felt like it went by really quick. Apparently playing solitaire really makes the time, or solitaire. Or I keep saying solitaire. Got solitaire on the brain. Playing minesweeper makes the time fly by, which is good. Wow, this sucks. I want to get back to 76 before I end stream though, so we'll see if that's possible. Might run a little long. Wow, this is actually criminal what I've got going on here. Microsoft hates me. Okay. We know there's 2. We know that it shares this 1. And it could be either of those 2 spaces we have left. This is also 2. And it can be that same space, and we know we're sharing this one. And we also have those 2. Now, because this is 1, we know it actually has to be one of these 2. And if that's true, then it cannot be this one. Which means that this 2 does have to be that one. That didn't really help though, because now I have a 3. And a 3 can be one of these 2, or it has to be these 2, and can be one of these 2. Which still leaves me in a bad spot. Okay. I have to focus here. Okay. I think that does mean that this has to be safe, which is good. But it doesn't clear anything up. Actually, it can't be this top one either, because that wouldn't connect with these 2. Okay. And because we now know that, we know that that has to be the bomb, so that's clear. Okay. It's not a great feeling. Okay. This one has 2. And we know that's 1, and it could be either of these 2 remaining. This one has 3. We know it's that one. We know they're sharing that one. And then it could be any of these 3. This one is connected by 1, which means it has to be one of these 3. And this one's connected by 2, which means it has to be 2 of these 3. Which actually makes this the most dangerous section. Because we know that 2 of those are explosives. Statistically speaking, it makes sense for them to share at least 1. And then maybe space out 1. Because otherwise you think these numbers would be bigger, right? So we now know that these are in fact explosives. Congrats to me for figuring that out. We know that that's bad. And we now know that that's bad, which means that those are good. Those are the bad ones for that space, so that's good. We know that that's safe. Oh, okay. We finally got something going here. Those 2 are bad, so we know that's good. And we know that's bad because we have 3 in that square. These 2 are bad, so those are all good. That's a safe square. That's a safe square. That's a safe square. Okay. Oh, I spent way too long on that. The thing is that I can either lock in or I can go fast. And sometimes going fast works and sometimes it does not. We know that those are all clear. That's 2. We know it has to be those. And we know that those share. So that can be clear too. This one's 1, so we know that's safe. This one's 1, so we know that's safe. This one's 2, so we know it has to be that one. This one's 3, so we know it actually has to be all 3 of those. This one's already got 2 in it. This one's got 1 in it. Okay, yeah, because that already has 3. So we're safe there. That's safe too. I thought I almost messed up somehow for a second because I saw I still had 2 and I thought I cleared the whole board, but I hadn't cleared up here, so we're good. Okay, so we know that that has to be a bomb. And we know because that's touching 2 that that has to be a bomb. And that means that we won. Okay. Wound. That has to be safe. We know that that's safe. That's bad now for sure. This one's touching 2, so we know that's bad. We know that's safe. That's touching 2, so that has to be bad. And we know those are 2, so that's cleared. This one's touching 1, and we know it's that one, so we know those are safe. This one's touching 1, and it has to be that one. What a nightmare. Okay. We know this one's touching 2. We know it can be any of these 3 that it's touching. We know this one's touching 2, but it actually has to be that one, which means that those have to be safe. I should have looked at that closer before going into detective mode. That's touching 1, so that's safe. That's touching 1, so that's safe. That's touching 1, so those 2 are safe. This is touching 3, so we know that's dangerous. This is touching 1, so we know that's bad. And because that's touching 3, we know that's bad. We know that's safe. This has got 2 in its space. Okay. That's beautiful. Okay. 1, we know it has to be that one. 2, we know that's 2 then. That's also 2, which means that whole area is safe. This is touching 1, so we know that those chunks are safe. This is touching 1, which means that's dangerous. That's touching 2, though, which is good. That's also touching 2, which is good. That's touching 1, which means we know that's dangerous, which means we know these are safe. That's touching 1, those are safe. That's touching 2, we know that's dangerous. That's touching 1, we know that's safe. That's touching 1, we know that's safe. That's touching 2, we know that's dangerous, but now that we know that, those are safe. Those are safe. Those are safe. That's dangerous. That's safe. That's safe. That's safe. That's dangerous. That's safe. That's safe. Okay, danger, 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 danger. That's touching one, we know that's safe. That's touching one, we know that's safe. That's touching one, we know those are all safe. That's touching two, we know that's danger, those are safe. That's touching two, it has to be that one, but because that's touching three, that's safe. Those are safe, that's safe. Two, we know that's dangerous, we know that's safe. That's safe. That's touching those two. This one has to touch that one, which means that's safe, and that's a bomb. I mean, it's gonna end up being in this bottom corner, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. We did it! Back to 76. Now the question is, do we gamble and do one more? The odds of succeeding in one more? In a risky gamble? I'm doing one more. Okay, let's see. Those are both dangerous. Those are dangerous. That's safe. That has to be dangerous. We know that's safe. We know that's dangerous. We know that's safe. That's safe. That's safe. This is touching three. It has to be those three, which clears that one. That's touching three. It has to be that one. That's touching one means that's clear. Let's go. Now, do I do another? How long have I been going? We can keep going a little bit. As long as I don't fail, I'm not going to be sad about it. But the likelihood is that I'll probably fail. I'm playing with fire right now. They're all safe. That's touching two, so we know it has to be that one. We know that's safe. They're touching two, so we know that's safe. That's touching one, so we know that's safe. Because that's touching two, we know it has to be that one, which means that one's safe. That one's touching one, so we know those are safe. That's also touching one, that's safe. That's dangerous. We know that those are safe. Because that's touching, we know that's safe. That's two, we know that's dangerous. We know that has to be safe. That has to be safe. That has to be dangerous. That has to be safe. This is touching one, which means that has to be dangerous, which means that's safe. Touching one, touching one, touching one. Awesome. That one's touching three, which means we know that has to be dangerous, and because that's touching two, we know that's good. This one has to be that one, which saves that one from touching three, so we know that's good. And we know that's the last bad one. Let's go. Oh, what a bad start. I shouldn't have played with fire. Here it is. Here's the loss. Here's my epic loss. I'm going to lose my 76%. Okay. I could just quit while I'm ahead, you know? I could quit while I'm ahead. Right now. Just, No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to... Oh, you got to be kidding me. I was just trying to click off the menu. There I am, back down. I shouldn't even joked about it. That was my... That was my downfall. What are the odds that I accidentally click like one square that exactly is going to blow up? Do I try going for 76 one more time? Or have I played too close to the sun too many times today? Wait, is that right? No, that can't be right. That's right, though. Is that safe? I mean, I don't think it would take me very long to get back to 76 again. Yeah, and that's fine. This sucks though, honestly. I hate when it starts giving me groups like this. Okay, this is touching 1. We know it's that one, so we know those 2 have to be safe. This is touching 2, which means that has to be bad. 2, which we know means that's safe. This is touching 2, and we know that means that's safe. This one's touching 2, and it has to be that one, which means that one has to be safe. We are at a loss again. We are at a loss again. Okay. So 4 can be either of these 2, obviously. And this one's 2, which means it has to be this one and one of these. This one's 1. But so is this one. Which to me, because that's too far to be an old bomb, so that has to be a bomb. Which means that has to be safe. Am I stupid? I was pretty sure about that. I can't believe I'm this dumb. I don't think it far enough through, I guess. I was pretty... Why did I even click? I knew that this was going to be safe. Why didn't I click here? Why am I playing risky games for 0 reward? It just makes my life harder. What am I doing? Okay, we know it has to be that one, which means that's safe. And because of that, we know those are safe. It's already got 2. That's already got 2. That has to be bad. That's safe. That's safe. That's already bad. So we got those. Has to be that one, which means that's safe. 2, that's fine. 1 means that that's safe, which means that's bad. Which means that's safe, which means that's safe. We know that's bad. That's bad. Or that's safe. That one's bad. Those are all safe. Those are all safe. No, that's bad, which means we clear that. That one's touching 1, so we know that's safe. That's safe. That's safe. That's safe. That has to be bad. You know, getting 2 losses is like the worst thing I could have possibly done. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back to 76. I was going to go till I've been streaming for 2 hours and 20 minutes, hoping I could just get a little bit more. And then, again, I played with fire, and I got what I deserved. It has to be those 3. And if that, then that. We'll switch around here because I don't really want to keep messing with that. Those are all safe. That's safe. Okay. This one is touching 3. Which means it has to be one of those 2. This one is also touching 3. Which means it has to be one of these 2. This bomb is touching, or this block is touching 1, which means it has to be one of these 3. How many bombs do I have left? 2? But this one's too far to be touching this one. Which I think means my back corner is safe. Is some of this game just memorizing patterns? Is that it? Is that what I've been missing this whole time? Okay, well, we know if that one's 1, then one of these 3 has to be bad too. Which means this one also has to be safe. Okay. Does that help me? If I think about it, it probably does. Okay. 3, including these 2. 1, including these 3. 1, including these however many. 4, 5. This one's 1, including these 3. This one's 1, including these 2. Now, what are the odds that these share a bomb? Right here. And then there's another one right here. I'm fairly positive that this has to be the bomb. Yeah, that has to be the bomb. Which means that's safe. And that's the bomb. Okay. Ugh. How bad can my luck possibly be? End up being those. And then the wall of shame here. This one's touching 2, and both of these are only touching 1. This one's touching 2 and 1. And then 2, 2, 2. So if that's touching 2's that many, it has to be those ones. If that one's touching, it has to be these ones, which overlap here. And if this one's touching, it can be those and this, which I think means that's safe. Or not. Or not. Okay, I'll do one more and then I'll call it stream. We're not making it back to 76 today. Sucks, I should have. Thing is, if I can't keep it, am I really at that level? You know what I mean? It's a shame to think it, but I don't think I'm good enough to actually retain that 76 clearly. So it has to be those 2. That's 3. That's safe. So it has to be that one. This is touching 1, we know that's safe. That's touching 1, we know that's safe. Of course, that was a quick one. Okay, well, we'll call it there. 2 hours went by so fast. And what do I have to show for it? A couple more games won and the exact same percentage win rate. So nothing. Nothing to show for it. Either way, though. Okay. We'll call it there. Yeah, truly a legacy. Anyways, thanks for anyone who's here. Wednesday's stream will be normal Fortnite again. I don't know. I haven't done anything in there, so the weekly challenges will be continuing, or the story challenges, I guess. I don't know if I have anything for Friday either, so we'll have to think about that. But yeah. Anyways, that'll be it for this one. Again, thanks for anyone who showed up.